Mayor Miller, thank you so much for meeting with us for this March edition of Ask Mayor Miller. First up, about the Macon Mall. The county commissioners approved up to $44 million in taxable revenue bonds through the UDA for that Macon Mall project and amphitheater. But that's a $4 million increase from the cap that was set in November. So with the global economic uncertainty, with the pandemic, and now with the Russian invasion of Ukraine, does that give you pause in pursuing this project? And can you explain why there's that raise in the cap?
It's not really a raise. I think that was something maybe the community picked up as because we just wanted to give ourselves some room or cushion. First of all, we've always said it's a $40 million project. That's a net amount. Just like when you go buy a house, there's other charges that go on top of that. So we don't know what those charges are typically until you get close to the time to do the bond. This happens every single bond. It's nothing specific to this particular project. When you did the last 3 or 4 bonds in Macon, you always start out with a figure that you want. But we want to make sure we net $40 million, which means we have enough for the amphitheater and all the improvements we have for the mall. So when we walk away at the end of the day, we want to make sure we have $40 million to work with. To do so, you have to have other things rolled in like capitalized interest. So the additional monies that we have, because we're not sure of the exact interest rate until it goes to market. That number should not be $44 million, it'll be below that, but it gives us a cushion to work with depending on the interest rate at that time. Also has nothing to do with the amount of the project because we're pretty certain about what we're going to spend on the project itself. But it gives us that security to make sure we have a good interest rate. At the same time, we didn't want to keep coming back in case it was a little bit more or a little more to come back to commission, so we said up to $44 million to make sure we had enough room. That's out there talking to our financial advisors, our consultants on the bonds to make sure that we had enough room to do that. We just strictly asked them to do up to $44 million. I don't think it's going to change. It certainly hasn't changed the project because the project is what it is. No cost have went up. The global pandemic has nothing to do with it other than the fact that we're trying to get the best interest rate possible. So we basically increased that to $44 million to give ourselves a little cushion. We want to be very conservative on our numbers, and we think that 44 will more than cover it, and I think we'll actually not even accept that full amount.
In terms of feasibility, though, I mean, do you have any concerns with, gas prices are way up, and you hope to bring in so many people from out of the Macon-Bibb County area to make that amphitheater a success? So is there any caution with that? Has there been a feasibility study done?
Well, I don't think there's nothing official as far as a feasibility study. I would say we completed a feasibility study based on all the information we have to give for the bond. The number of people we're going to have, the type of venue we're going to have, the number of entertainers we think, the cost associated with that, the number of people we think are going to visit our community for the year. We already do business with Spectra and others in Macon-Bibb County, so they know what our venues bring. They know that we need a facility that can house more than what we have at the Coliseum. The auditorium itself, you're talking 2,000 to 3,500. If you get over to the Coliseum, you're talking maybe 6,500 max, maybe 7,000. They want a venue, they need a venue that is larger than that. We turn away a lot of people that we could do up to 10,000 because we don't have the capacity to do so. At the same time, a lot of times we will book the Coliseum with an event maybe for sports, 4,000 or 5,000 capacity. And we have another entertainer that's coming through town that could play there. Right now we're having to turn them away. That's a substantial loss for Macon-Bibb County. This will give us the ability to add on another venue there to make sure that we're able to maximize our capacity. We certainly can certainly do that. I've never saw a feasibility study done by a consultant that came back and said, we don't want this to happen. It's going to always come back and say, yes, you can do this. This is something we want you to have. This is the reason that you need to have it. If we know we're going to do the project and we need an amphitheater in Macon-Bibb County, I don't need to pay $300,000 or $400,000 for somebody to tell me that we need to have one here. If we know we have a capacity right now of 6,500 to 7,000 for the Coliseum, and we turn away, folks that want to perform for 10,000, then that tells us all we need to know. These are real life experiences that we have in our experience over the last several years with venues and acts and events that happen in Macon-Bibb County. So certainly we're excited about the project. We don't anticipate any cost because of the pandemic going on. The project itself we expect to open up in June of 2023. We have sufficient enough time to get everything ready there on the location. We're very adaptive to the type of materials that we're using there to make sure they're readily available, and a lot of this could become prefab. So we're excited about that. I know our local contractors are going to be involved, are very excited about getting to work, being able to make some money, and have a lasting legacy on Macon-Bibb County.
And of course, you've mentioned possibly even putting additional courtrooms there in the mall facility. So I know that there has been money set aside in the 2018 SPLOST, like 40 million, I think, for our courthouse annex. So does that mean, since the city auditorium design is way over budget, at least the initial design, could there be some shifting around? And do you think the city hall, or excuse me, city auditorium renovations will be completed by its centennial?
I think so. I think we're going to begin the project in May. We already given permission to go ahead and start with the things they need to do inside the interior. While there's a lull in some of the events, they plan on that already. We're going to find the funding for that. We're valued engineered it down from the cost that we got before. The previous commission and administration set aside $10 million for a project like that. That's not substantial enough. It would take probably almost double that amount. So we're going to be very creative and very efficient with our SPLOST dollars to make sure we meet the needs there at the auditorium. And regarding the courtrooms at the Macon Mall, we already sent that out for bid. We already got prices back, and we're awarding that contract. So that's one of the first things, along with the Board of Elections, that'll be built inside the mall. We expect that to happen probably beginning in June, so if not before then. So we're excited about that. Also, Dunwoody & Associates were awarded the design of the Macon-Bibb County Government Offices part of the Macon Mall. They're beginning to get with our directors to have a walkthrough to start designing that project, so we can send that out with a request for proposal and get some prices back on the interior part of the mall, all while we're looking at the building the pickleball courts. We expect maybe 32 courts there in the old Belt Matthews, and at the same time we're going to have the amphitheater building. So we have a lot of activity going on there. Each one of them are separate and distinct. We're certainly capable of working on multiple projects at the same time.
Now, back to the auditorium, though, so you mentioned trying to find, up to 20 million now for that. So would that include kind of that glass atrium that everybody was so excited about? Or
well, I don't know that everyone's excited about that. I've heard just as many detractors as I do,
okay.
People who like it. Personally, I think it messes up with the aesthetics of that historical, structure that we have, this very solid foundation, and I'm not sure that does it justice. I think that's something that has been eliminated from the design based on the cost of it. Right now, we need to make sure that we get some TLC. It needs some paint, it needs some carpet, it needs a new HVAC system, needs some acoustical work done on the inside. I think that's going to be some of the first parts of that. It needs some updated restrooms. There are many avenues of money we could do. There's other SPLOST projects that were requested that may no longer needed to be included in the SPLOST, and those are not that were voted on by taxpayers. Those were voted on by previous commissioners. So we do have flexibility within our own SPLOST budget to move money from one project to the other. But on the courthouse situation, we wouldn't take dollars from the courthouse to put into the auditorium. That's a totally different project. The courthouse is part of it. At some point in time, we may decide that we have substantially met all what's needed for a courthouse. We could close a chapter on that, but honestly, I think we may be building a new courthouse in the very near future, whether on that location or another location, but certainly downtown.